Well, my name is Marina Medina. Really, I'm Marina Sanabria de Medina. I was born July 18, 1941 in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. The island was a beautiful island called Aguadilla, which means like water. And it was because the island, the Aguadilla was all surrounded by water. Where we have like 3 or 4 different beaches in there. So it was a beautiful island, coconut plants all over, and but because of condition, my mother decided to come to United States for a better life, and we came to United States, and we lived with my sister, my oldest sister, Herminia. She had us for a while, my mother and I. My father stayed in Puerto Rico because my father was older, he couldn't be back and forth, and so my mother wanted to find out how it was. So we came to the United States. She tries to get a job, and she was an older person already, yeah, and with a young girl. And then they put me in school, and there start my little problems because while I was in school, I didn't know English. So I hated it was beautiful. I thought it was nice, but at the same time, it was cold here in United States, and it was, and I couldn't speak the language. So when I went to school, it was very hard. They didn't have anybody to help you out with English. And another thing that they did was, because of my age, they skipped me from 3rd grade to 5th grade. So I never went to 4th grade. So you can imagine having the work I had to do without knowing English or anything like that. So, but I went to 5th grade. Then from there my mother moved out from my sister's house, and we had a house in Humboldt. I think it was 132 Humboldt Street in Brooklyn. And it was very cold. Oh, in those days you heat yourself with kerosene. And we lived poor. It was poor life, but was happy. We had my brother that is a musician, and there was always music in the house and singing and things like that. So then we decided to go to move again, and then I was already going to junior high school. In junior high school, there was a lot of things we did in junior high school. One day, my brother took me out to a television station to dance in a contest, and I didn't win, but it was fun because the next day everybody was asking me, "Oh, I saw you on television. I saw you on television," and it was a nice time that we had doing that. And so then it was time to move on, and I went to high school. In high school, I decided to take hairdressing. I always liked to do hair and fix my hair, so I figured that's what I like to do. I'm gonna start doing something like that. And then there I had a lot of girlfriends. And then when I was in high school, I met my husband, that was my husband. He was my sister's stepson. So he was going through a divorce. He got divorced, and then he started liking me, and so we were not going out yet, but we, started being friends. And then, well, I was going already at my 12 years. I was ready for graduation. So then I graduated as a hairdresser, and I got my license. And then my husband asked me to marry him. I married him in July 23rd, 1960. Nick was 10 years older than me, so everybody actually kid him, saying that he stole that he stole I can't say it. Well, anyway, he stole the crib, like saying, because I was so young. And so, anyway, the thing is, we did get married. He has been out of the Army for a while already. He was an airborne ranger in the Army. And so we decided to get married. We got married and we lived in Harrison Place, 100 Harrison Place. There, my sister had a 6-apartment building, and the whole family lived there. And when we had a party, it was the whole house party, a 6-apartment party going on in there. Then we were there, and after a while, a year and something, I had my first son, Nick Jr. So when I was pregnant of little Nicky, my sister-in-law Sonia and Hector, my nephew, they were getting married. I wanted to go to the wedding, but I started having pain and my water broke. So I didn't want to go to the hospital yet, so what I did is I said, I don't have pain or anything, so I'm gonna go to the wedding. I went to the wedding. My water had broken earlier, but I decided to go to the wedding. So I was dancing. And at that time we used to do a dance called the pachanga, that it was like you really had to jump. It was, never mind these dances today, that was really jumping, that you had to do it. And I hold my belly and I figured I'm gonna just do this pachanga. And when I started doing that, my water really started coming down my feet, and then I said, uh-oh. And everybody saw me, and they said, you need to go to the hospital. And then I said, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave the wedding. I said, so I could wait a little bit longer. And my girlfriend, that she was going to be Nikki's godmother, said, no, you need to go now. We have to take you now. Because if not, you may have some problems, which I did. I had a dry birth, what they call a dry birth, because all the water had come out. Anyway, the thing is that from the wedding, I just had to hold my belly and end up going to the hospital to have little Nikki. And it was a big story because they couldn't believe it that the next day I had the baby, and the day before I was at the wedding dancing. Mm-hmm. So I thought Nikki was going to be a dancer. So, and we, it was something amazing to me, because we waited. I mean, I didn't know it could have been dangerous too, but I was young. So it was a pleasure to have the baby and be there. My mother was living with me at that time also. My father already had passed away. Just before I got married, my father passed away in this country. He was older. He was like 83 years old already. I just forgot to tell you too that I was born out of two older person. My father was 65 when I was born, and my mother was like 42. So anyway, so then we were in Harrison Place. We lived there for a couple of years. We had a good life there, like I said, with the kids. After that, all my kids were born in Harrison Place. Then I had Cindy, Eric, and Stephen. And so I had 4 children. And then we decided that my husband wanted to leave the city because the city was getting bad. And he didn't want to raise kids down there. So we decided to, and it was a hassle because we had to walk like to bring those kids to school and back and forth. The 2 bigger ones that were in school, because Eric and Stephen were like a year and a half to 9 months, Stephen, when I moved to Pennsylvania. So we decided to come to Pennsylvania, and then we lived in Lehigh Drive. And Lehigh Drive, it was an experience, because the first day we moved to Lehigh Drive, the river was up. So I didn't think that I wanted to stay there. So I left the truck full of all my stuff, and I stayed in my sister's house. Then the next day we decided, my husband loved the house because that was his father's house, and he had a place where he could do gardening, and he just loved it. And so we decided to stay there. We moved in, and it was nice. The family used to call the house the villa. It was a villa because everybody came the weekends from New York and different places to visit, and sometimes they would just stay there for the weekends and whatnot. And Nick just built. He built a boat. What do you call that? To put the boats in, and he built a boat with my brother, and so he loved it there because he was able to go boating and go hunting around the area. So that's another thing about Nick. Nick was a hunter, and then he hunt, and he went ahead and he had Eric, Nicky Jr. and Eric and Stephen hunting with him, which I didn't really like it because they were young, but by 16-year-old, the 3 of them were going hunting. So anyway, and one day we had a little incident that happened that really scared the life out of me, and that was the day that Eric got hurt by a bow, by an arrow. And there I said, no more hunting. But the kids were always like hunting and everything. Eric recovered, and back when they went in the woods to hunt. So, but that was a very scary time for me because I thought I was going to lose them both, because Stephen was more nervous than Eric at that time, thinking that he shot his brother. But the story continued, and we started living in Lehigh Drive. We did a lot of things, like I said, over there. And like I said, Nicky loved it because he plans a lot. He plans a lot of things. Also, the summer was the greatest time because he could go boating, he could have cilantrillo, he got peppers, a lot of other stuff in the yard. So in Lehigh Drive, we still have Cindy, and the 4 kids were still there. So Nicky and Stephen went in the army for 2 years. And then, by then, Cindy and Rick were getting married. And also, Eric was getting married to Lisa. So we had two that were getting married, and then we had two that were in the army. Then Stephen came from the army, and he did his 2 years. But then Nikki stayed in the army for 20 years. And then by that time also Gloria, that was living very close to us, already had Danny and Holly. But she decided to go to Florida then. She had a very bad operation from her thyroid, and she wanted to move to Florida, so she went to Florida then. So by then we were all by ourselves, because all the kids were either in the ones in the army. Then Nikki came from the army, got married, and then kept on going in the army. Never came back to Pennsylvania, but Stephen came back to Pennsylvania. He also was married by then too, with Kay, and he came to live in PA. Then by that time, Cynthia was having her first baby, Neil, and Nick Jr.'s wife, Mary, was having Valerie. They're 6 months apart, Neil and Valerie. And then Stephen was already single again, and they always, in Lehigh Drive, they always have fun, because they went out and they always tried to be, there was always fights in the nightclub with those boys. So especially when they were all together, it was very hard to have them, the three of them, because they always end up with a fight or doing something to get punished by their father. So, but after Lehigh Drive, like I said, Lehigh Drive was a lot of fun and everything. The only thing that you couldn't live there because of the flood. The water was always coming in when it rained a lot, when the snow, I would get very nervous, because I know the water was going to start coming in. Most of the time it ruined your carpet, your floors, and you had to put everything off the floors. So we decided then, I said, so I'm not living here no more, so I'm going to get me a house someplace else. So that's what we did. We moved over here to Skulak, and it was a big house, which I liked right away, because it had big rooms and stuff like that. And over here already, the kids were already married and having kids. While we live here over here in Skulak, Stephen had Devin, and after Devin, a while back after, like 6 years apart I think they are, he had the twins, Mason and Austin. Then Eric married Anne-Marie, and then they had Roman and Bella. So when I moved here, like I said, Nikki and I were by ourselves, because already the 4 kids were married, and 5 really, because Gloria was married and she lived in Florida. She had left us. So we were here by ourselves, we could say. Little Nikki used to come to go hunting with his dad, and Stephen and Eric, they also did a lot of fishing when they moved down here, because they belonged to a club, and so they went fishing a lot of time. And by that time, the grandchildren would come in, starting to get a little bigger, walking around, and so they would come, and we did picnics in the yard, and we also did. We had a lot, like a lot of little parties here, when the kids. I took care of. One time, I took care of Mason and Austin when they were little. I remember having the two of them taking a bath outside and throwing each other water. Also, I had Bella in the snow and Roman. And at one time we had them before we had Austin, Mason, Roman, Bella. Neil was already big, and Valerie was big, and we also had Devin. But Devin was a little bigger too, but he still was able to play with the kids. And we had Xavier a couple of times too coming in the summer. Mostly Xavier came, not so much in the winter. But it was nice having the kids lie down in the snow in this house, and having the picnic and stuff. But it was nice living in this house, because we lived peaceful, and like I said, it was Grandma and I by ourselves. So, but we always had the kids here, and that was nice.